Dr. Noor Mubashir ma'am, PG Coordinator. Welcome you ma'am. I would like to extend a special and heartfelt welcome to Mr. A. Thomas Gunasilan, the IQAC Coordinator of St. PHILOMENA'S College, whose vision led to the conception of the workshop and whose dedicated efforts ensure I warmly welcome Dr. Carol Stanley, IQAC Coordinator of Jyoti Nivas College, Bangalore, whose association strengthened this collaborative effort. Welcome you, ma'am. We are privileged to have with us the other distinguished resource person who will eventually be meeting all of us, Professor Mohammad Minaj, Professor Lancy D'Souza, and Professor N.S. Harinarayan, whose expertise will undoubtedly enrich this workshop. We are truly delighted to witness such a diverse and vibrant participation. This workshop has brought together participants from various parts of India, reflecting a rich academic and cultural diversity. We have registered a total of 78 participants on date. So we proudly welcome all the participants representing the state of Karnataka from cities such as Bangalore, Mysore, Udupi, Shivamogga, Mandya, Kodagu, Virajpete. We also have one participant from University College London, UK, making this actually an international workshop. We are equally honored to have participants joining us from state of Kerala, particularly from the districts of Malappuram, Thrissur and Palakkad. A special welcome to our participants from Andhra Pradesh, especially from Vizag. We are also pleased to acknowledge the participants from Tamil Nadu, including Palayam Kotte. Your presence, whether in this hall connected virtually, adds immense value to this academic gathering and truly makes it a national platform for learning and collaboration. This workshop, organized in collaboration with Jyoti Nivas College, aims to empower researchers and academicians with essential tools and insights required to produce high-quality, impactful research publications. I also extend a warm welcome to all the participants those who are present here, research scholars, students who are a part of this workshop today. I'm confident that over the next 2 days, the session led by our esteemed experts will provide deep insights, practical knowledge, and meaningful academic engagement. Once again, I extend a warm welcome to each one of you. Let us make the most of the opportunity to learn, share, and grow together. Thank you and wish you all a highly enriching and productive sessions.
Thank you, ma'am. To inspire and guide us, I now request our respected rector to deliver his message.
Faculty and my dear students, good morning to all of you. I don't hear you. Good morning to all of you. It is always a joy, a privilege for me to address my students, especially when we have national seminars and workshops. Today I'm really excited to be here and to say a few words. And this is an activity that is happening with the collaboration of Jyoti Nivas College, Bangalore. I don't know how many of you are aware, Jyoti Nivas College, run by the Sisters of St. Joseph of Thebes, and St. PHILOMENA'S College, founded by MEP fathers. They all come from France. Our MEP bishops, when they started a college in Mysore for everyone, whereas St. Joseph of Thebes sisters, they started institutions in different parts of this country. But one college which is quite famous in our state is Jyoti Nivas College. And this Jyoti Nivas College, run by Sisters St. Joseph Thebes, they were brought here to India from France by MEP fathers, who are the pioneers of this college. So I'm really grateful to our French fathers, the pioneers, the founding fathers of our institutions, whose vision, whose collaboration, cooperation, and their prayers and intercessions, they are sustaining us always. I'm grateful to Sister Louisa, the principal of Jyoti Nivas College. Every time I meet her, I say, sisters, I have a very close link with St. Joseph of Thebes sisters. You know why? because the first religious nun from my village where I was born joined the congregation of St. Joseph of Thapps, who is no more. And she knows that sister very well. I would like to sincerely thank the organizers for having taken the trouble to organize this event. Any national seminar brings honor, glory, recognition to the institution. And this particular workshop on tools that you need for research work, they are quite useful. In a simple language, I would say, my father, who is no more, used to tell me when I was a small boy in the village, we had to cultivate farms, okay, we were farmers. He used to say, ಆಯುಧ ಮೋಸವಾಗಿದ್ರು ಆಳು ಮೋಸವಾಗಿದ್ರು ಆಳು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವರ್ಕರ್ ಆಳು ಮೋಸವಾಗಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಆಯುಧ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು. Understand what it means? The carpenter, he may not be a good carpenter, but he needs to have good instruments to do his work. And also he used to tell me, in the hands of a good barber, even a worst face can look beautiful. You understand what it means, isn't it? So these tools will serve you certainly to become better equipped in the society, in the world where we live. I'm sure these 2 days will be very meaningful. We'll upskill you so that you are able to involve yourself in research work. This workshop will not only help our staff members in their research work, also the students. I wish you all the very best. I would not like to talk much on the subject matter because I'm no expert. With all humility, I would say that. And we have experts are here, Professor Jagdish waiting to address us. So thank you. Have a nice time. God bless you.
Thank you for the. Now we move on to the first academic session of the day. I invite Ms. Kavita, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, to introduce today's keynote speaker and resource person for today's first session.
Good morning to everyone. It is my privilege and honor to introduce our esteemed guest for today, Dr. R. Jagdish. Dr. R. Jagdish is a distinguished academic and former professor of operations management and quantitative techniques with an extensive career spanning over 4 decades across institutions in India and abroad. He has held senior leadership positions including Dean, Director, Head of Department, and Professor, contributing significantly to the advancement of higher education. A notable chapter in his career was his tenure at the Fox School of Business and Management, Temple University, Philadelphia, USA, from 2006 to 2012, where he taught operations management and engaged with a diverse international student community. Dr. Jagadish's academic credentials include a BE in Mysore University, ME, Madras University, Diploma in Production Management, Annamalai University, PhD, IIT Bombay, along with professional certifications such as Six Sigma Green Belt and PMP preparation. His contributions have been recognized internationally with his profile listed in Marquis Who's Who 2010 US edition. With over 40 years of teaching and research experience, he has specialized in logistics and supply chain management, quality management, technology management, and operations management. His scholarly work includes more than 120 publications in reputed national and international journals and conferences, as well as 5 co-authored books on management. He has also guided PhD candidates at Visvesvaraya Technological University, Mysore University, and the University of Azteca, Mexico, nurturing the next generation of researchers and professionals. We are truly delighted to have such an inspiring personality among us. I'm sure we are all eager to hear from our guest. So without any further delay, I request Sir to please take over the stage and guide us through the session. Over to you, Sir.
Let me cordially welcome you all for this session, particularly taking you through the landscape of research. And I'm told that we have a mix of participants here, faculty as well as research scholars and all that, right? But nevertheless, research is a field, any amount of learning is always insufficient. Okay, nobody can say that, oh, I know everything and I can just manage it, right? It won't happen. So that being the case, we need to understand one thing, that is, research is a continuous journey. Okay, we need to first understand the fundamentals, then concepts, all those things, and of course keep ourselves in line with the developments. Okay, so that's what exactly I'm going to do as far as the mapping is concerned, right? So this is of course my general this one, because you know very well, right? 4 members, couple, their kids, they go to a hotel, just take a place there, 4 seats, and all of them start looking at the mobiles, right? And even if the waiter is standing there, sir, what do you wish to have with the menu card and all, they'll be more seriously watching their mobiles. Okay, so there is a kind of addiction we have reaching. So let us be aware from the distraction, because this is a serious topic. So definitely, I would appreciate if you can focus on what we are going to discuss and all that, right? So let me start with a simple question, right? Anybody can answer. What is the most essential item required for research is what normally I always ask. So anybody who would like to answer, please go ahead. Of course, you may say there are so many, right? You need to have tools, hardware, software. Of course, you need to have certain other accessories, maybe volumes, either in the digital form or the physical form. Maybe you need to have a computer, so many things, right? So there are, we call it as essential things. But apart from all that, the most important one that you need to have is your own what? Interest. Interest. If there is no interest, any amount of workshops you attend, nothing will happen. Okay. So you should have interest, and research is typically driven by curiosity. Right? Research is typically driven by curiosity, in the sense that the more questions you ask, you become better researcher. Okay, you are not supposed to accept anything on the face of it. Whenever somebody says something, you always ask a question. Oh, is it? Why? How? The moment you start getting deep into that, you are a researcher. Okay, so a researcher will not feel satisfied just like the other things, right? Maybe, oh fine, let me, no, it's not like that. You always have the curiosity to ask a question, what next, what more, etc., right? So let's keep in mind all those things. Now, another question I ask is, do researchers need to be creative? Yes. Right? Many of you will definitely say yes, but not necessarily. But if you are creative in the sense, of course, you are looking for new things, you want to come out with a different approach, a combination, maybe a new method, maybe your own technique, whatever it is. The more creative you are, you definitely become a better researcher. But one question people normally ask is, can everyone be creative? Yes, everyone can be. It is not reserved for only few. Anyone can be creative at any time, right? Even age doesn't matter. For example, if you want to write a story, you can write a story at any time in your life, right? Whether you are in a school or you are a retired person, doesn't matter. So creativity is something that you have to. Then I'll ask a question, are you creative? Since you have already answered yes, I'll take it for granted that all of you agree that you are creative. Right? I go with that premise. The reason is, because of that interest, right, we start exploring, which is nothing but research. Right? We start exploring is what? You are getting into the research domain, either on a formal note or almost in an informal way, whatever it is, depending upon how you see the whole thing. Okay. So let us come to the main part of our session, mapping. Okay. So I have put a few points here. Why mapping the research landscape matters? Why should it matter to us? Why should we even know about it? Can we not just start with the research thing? Is what the question is. To answer that, a couple of points are here. Defining the landscape means what? Scope, boundaries, and evolution of knowledge in a field. That means you are not confining to your topic, but you are actually finding out how this field has evolved. Is it from a long time, or only recently people have shown interest and it has become? The moment you observe that, you will have a different thinking. If it is already a well-established field, you have to be very careful, right? Because there are so many experts, plenty of papers already written, plenty of journals already dedicated. But if it's a new one, just recently it is happening, you have lesser experts, you have higher chance of publishing because you are now entering into a new field, and also lot of scope for exploration. Okay, for example, all of you, I don't have, of course, I'll cover that part also. Now it is evolving in a major way, right? So far, what we thought has only limited to certain applications, no, it is now expanding in such a way that every day new tools are coming up. In fact, we are almost finding it difficult to stay abreast with the developments, right? Because there is the rapidity with which the tools are being developed. New field. So why not explore, for example, AI in agriculture? Yes, let us explore a new field. AI in medical field, yes. AI in defense, yes. AI in space exploration. So all of them are now coming up, right? They have not yet reached the level of maturity or anything. Whereas certain fields might have already reached a state of saturation. As I said, more experts are there, more journals are there, more books have been written. You have to be very careful, you have to cautiously move because already people know many things. So if you want to still do research and come out with something, you have to be extraordinarily good. So you need to very carefully choose, right? Then coming to the historical trajectory, how the field has developed, yes, right? Thanks to the technological development that we have today, the subject spreads very fast, right? Very fast. And interestingly, many of the subjects that we study in academics have all come from practical fields only, right? So somebody does something in the industry sector, slowly it captures attention of everyone. Then it moves into the academics, we formalize it as a subject or as a course, and over a period of time, it may even become an entire degree itself. And then research also side by side goes, all those things will happen, isn't it? And of course, people also add their own contributions, bringing new techniques, developments, etc. Gap analysis is what normally we expect from research. And we may ask a question, why there should be a gap or why gap? The reason is quite understandable. Many times when we go through the research part, we may be choosy or selective. We may not touch upon everything, right? We may leave certain things, no, right now, let me not. I will focus later, or let someone else. So as a result, some gap will always be there, no matter whatever we claim as our research is quite strong, well established, well structured, etc. Some gap will still be there. Some point might be still eligible for further exploration. So that is what one of the earlier exploration of the research. That means we try to figure it out. Okay, is there something that some researchers have forgotten or left out, either intentionally or accidentally or whatever it is? That's fine. Then of course, current hotspots, emerging themes, trending topics. Nowadays, as I said, AI now has become omnipotent, omnipresent, right? So we may also be tempted to jump into that naturally, right? Because you get better recognition. Then future directions, yes, definitely we try to figure out what possible extensions are there, how best we can shift it to another area, all those things, okay? So tools and techniques, as I said, plenty, right? Probably the time is insufficient for me to cover everything. Then research methodology. Then another thing right now happening is this interdisciplinary crossovers. People from different backgrounds, different domains, they are combining together and they're trying to develop their own conception. And that's good. That's really helpful in developing the research work, making it more applicable. Because many times people may think, oh, that doesn't work here, or it may not be. But a researcher, by conducting interdisciplinary studies, can definitely prove that yes, it works. Right? It works. It's possible. So that's where, and now we can observe that the traditional boundaries are getting blurred. If somebody from history can definitely jump to data analytics, it doesn't stop anybody. There's no reason to say that only this fellow should do only that. No, nothing. Anybody from any field can jump to another area, right? That's very much happening. The strategic positioning is what is expected when you are into publishing. Aligning research with societal needs and funding priorities. Of course, nowadays in every institute, particularly those in academics, there is a mandate, right? You have to bring funds, you have to apply for funding opportunities, proposals, so on and so forth, right? So how do you do that? So I cannot just write something and expect somebody to fund it. No, I have to first ask a question, what is that they are looking for? What is that? There's a chance for me to get the fund, isn't it? So we have to align. And another thing now every journal asks nowadays is, how does it help the society? Many research is just good for nothing, right? Because purely academic. That too, if you are doing some research on gold, right? Maybe you are in a field where historical studies are fancied. The one question is, how does this research work? Helps anybody? Will it throw new light, or is it some just a repetition of what has already been done? So such research works may not have charm because people think it is more of an academic nature. Nothing much about it, right? So why should? So that is why many journals have no put a condition. There is a declaration you have to make as an author. How does this research help government or an institution or policy maker and all that? You have to answer. Suppose if you say it doesn't mean, no, other people never answer. Now many journals are doing it. Okay, so you have to be very careful when you are looking for certain specific journals. Then wrap up, of course, we do that, right? And takeaways, what exactly we learned, how are we going to play all these things and all this, you definitely do that, right? So this I don't have to tell, but I have to draw your attention to the last part. Generalizable knowledge. Many times what happens is the research comes with a specific set of assumptions, conditions, within which it works. The moment those conditions are relaxed, the moment those assumptions are withdrawn, research will not work good, right? Because you know very well, there are always exceptions. That goes without saying. So what we think that, okay, this works, may not work because of so many reasons. That itself is another part of research, right? What happens there may not necessarily happen here. And there is one criticism as well, right? If you try to follow something that has been done successfully there, it may not necessarily give us the same results. Okay, because of, as I said, several reasons: people, lifestyle, society, procedures, practices, etc., etc. For example, since one of my favorite subjects is quality management, I remember many of the quality management techniques were borrowed from Japanese industries because Japanese industries are considered the pioneers. But many of them didn't work here because we are not Japanese, as simple as that. We don't have the same culture, right? They are always on time. We hardly, no, I don't have to tell. 10 o'clock means it can be 11, 12:30, or next day 10 o'clock also. Let's set the better. Cleanliness, sorry, only for few people, not for me. The entire place is a garbage ground. I can throw anything anywhere. So all those things. So how does the Japanese system works here? Come on. Isn't it? I conducted training for Rane Madras in Mysore for 1.5 years. Right? Because they were going for a Japanese award known as Deming Prize. They finally won it, and I'm very happy that I contributed myself to that. The production manager also congratulated. I had to do both in Kannada and English because of workers and all that. So one of the fundamental questions that was nagging me was that, will they really fall? Right? It's very difficult. Very difficult. So if someone says that, okay, it works successfully there, we already have success rate of 85% and all, so hence why not? No, you don't. Because fundamentally different. So we cannot take it for granted that it simply works. That is why later I'll show one of the questions that we ask in the publication is, does it take into consideration the international aspects? Because what worked there may not necessarily work here. Quality circles, for example, they were one of the best method for improving the quality in any organization in Japan. They had a huge success rate, but elsewhere it failed, including India. Right? I have got several papers written about that. even some of the Indian companies who adapted it, government and private, they said that no, that doesn't work here. Because fundamentally it requires discipline, which is a rarity in our society. Right? That being the case, it didn't work, it failed. So can we blame that quality circle is not good? No. Because culturally we were read that system, isn't it? So this is exactly the point we need to understand, right? Because we believe in freedom, but we should also remember that freedom comes with certain expectations, isn't it? So we have to be very careful about it. So there is one thing I have many times mentioned very clearly. So another point I want to tell is it is inseparable from learning as the process of research adds new insights. Okay, so it's a learning process. Please take it like that. Many times people say research is boring, useless, waste of time, nobody cares. Fine, well taken. For example, I have written almost 125 papers. What did I get? Zero. Right? Nobody even paid 5 rupees for me. That's a different story altogether. But does it mean that I should stop? No, I'm still now currently writing 2 papers. Also, nobody said you have to write. Because it's a learning. Just yesterday, I was completing one paper, and I was so happy that because I learned a new technique. I was thrilled almost. Oh, come on, something is new. Right? This is something I didn't know this. Like that. So it's a learning process which should continuously happen. Lifelong learning. Okay. So when you do research, you learn many things. Probably you may come across certain things which you would have not even observed or even considered as something relevant. So let it be like that. And secondly, you are also expanding the knowledge base. By adding something based on your research, you made it much bigger, broader, right? So that is an advantage. So let us not forget. So as I said, typically, although curiosity-driven research is what is very much happening, today there is the other one, right? As faculty or as PhD scholars, we have to write. Okay, you have to do. No escape. It's mandated. Suppose if you are working for a company, there's a contracted research, yes, you have to do the pharma companies, for example. They get research contracts from all over the world. In fact, India is recognized as one of the very strong in research in the pharma sector, right? I'm proud of that. So, molecular biology, whatever it is, depending on the subject, fine. So naturally, if it is mandated and all, yes, we have to satisfy it, right? We may have to apply later for patent or we have to come out with a new drug, whatever it is, depending on how it goes. Now coming to the research journey, it starts from idea generation, you know that, then you follow the research design thing, then you go for literature survey, then you do sampling, all the statistics which in the next session or maybe tomorrow we'll be dealing with, and then finally you come to conclusion, report, paper presentation, thesis, etc., etc. All those things will happen, right? But it all starts with an idea. So how to get idea? It is all commonly said that people get many ideas when they are taking shower. Okay, it is also a research. So tomorrow you can try my position, right? Just stand beneath the shower, depending on how you like, hot water, cold water, whatever you feel like, and just think for a while. Maybe ideas will emerge to you, right? And immediately you can jump, eureka, right? And you can start writing. Maybe, or you can even still better carry pen and paper inside the bath. Unfortunately, unless they are waterproof, it may not work. So, fine. But Japanese even found that solution. One of my friends who went to Tokyo told me an interesting thing. Hey, you know, I got my visiting card from my Japanese counterpart. Do you know where? I said, what is it? Maybe in his office. Hey, no, in the swimming pool. What? In the swimming pool, he gave his visiting card. How can it be? No, he had kept it in his trunk and it was waterproof visiting card. And he gave that. How do you like? He asked me. I said, fantastic. I said, I think we should also start doing it because you never know where people will ask for research. Visiting card, isn't it? You might just pull it out suddenly from somewhere, like magic. Isn't it? So, given all these things, you always say that yes, research is very fascinating. Coming to this one, although I am a bit off track, one of my friend was visiting Singapore. So, it was almost a last minute decision for him to travel, and he wanted visiting cards, some 100 or something. So, he goes to a local shop and all that, and everybody says, sir, in one way we can't give. He was very disappointed. What is this? One day they can't give and all. Then he goes to Singapore. And he just, at the time of registration, the reception, he just asked the lady there, I have a meeting tomorrow morning, but I am short of visiting cards. Can you arrange for me? She said, yes, why not? And he gave all the details. Before he could start the next day morning. The visiting cards were handed over to him in his hotel room. So he came back and told, Jagdish, this is what I call as productivity. Mysore, they said, even Monday, sir, not all. And there, in few hours, they, how is that? I said, that is Singapore, this is India, that's all. Okay, so these are all the things we should not do. Right? So these are all the things we should not forget, because we have to appreciate, we have to understand, we have to recognize that. That's how you become a good researcher. Okay, right. Now, what is the expectation? I will not take much time about this because, I have also directly or indirectly addresses some real world problem. That's what is expected today. Of course, some fields may be excluded, for example, in the field of mathematics. Okay, they may be pure research. Okay, fine. Variables in quantum, all those things you already know. I will not spend much time on that. Now, let us answer this question. Why mapping the research landscape matters, right? So the statement is, it is not just about knowing where you stand, it is about seeing where you can lead. Right? You have already seen how big the domain is. Right? So what is that I have to do next? Isn't it? Right? So conventional approaches will say, you just go to the last part of the previous work, where the author would have mentioned, this research has certain limitations. Maybe you pick from there. Oh, these limitations, let me explore. That's my extended research. Or the author would have concluded saying that although so many constraints were there, the author could focus only on this and certain other things could not be. That will give a cue. Oh, fine, let me take one. Right? So, like that, whenever you see some kind of a research work already done, can I take it forward? The next question. If that curiosity was not there, probably would not have done all these things at all, isn't it? So how does the society flourish or progress? Only because of somebody's curiosity, isn't it? And you may be surprised to know, farmers, right? They do a lot of research. But how many of us have observed it carefully? For example, yesterday I saw an article in one of the villages. He has grown 42 varieties of wheat. International scientists have gone and visited their farmland just to see how one fellow can grow so many varieties. Fascinating, isn't it? So anybody can definitely do this kind of thing and all, right? Either in practice or on paper, whatever it is, right? So transforming the complex data into a clear strategy for leading others forward. Can you do that? The next question. And that's why you are attending this workshop, so that you can understand that, yes, I can do that. I can go forward and do all those things, right? So another thing is, yes, these are important. The first one is very, very important. Prevents duplication. Already research is done, but why are we doing it again? One question. Sometimes it can happen because we didn't observe. Already it is done somewhere. But I'm sorry, I didn't have all the resources, I couldn't make it out, and hence I thought it is new and I did. Somebody can always come with an excuse like that, but you have to be very careful. If it is already done, already well established, and if you do that, sorry, the research may be rejected. In fact, it happened to me also. Right? I sent a paper. The editor simply returned it, saying that enough papers have already been written, we are not editors. I was taken aback because I thought, okay, it is something new. So it can happen to anybody. Okay. So reveals gap, we have already said, positions research strategically, enhance interdisciplinary. Yeah, these points I've already covered. I'm not going to say. Now, just to give you an insight on the mapping itself, how it can become a research topic on its own, right? These are some of the new papers I came across. Mapping the research landscape in creativity and transformational leadership. That is what the author is looking at the entire area. What all the things that have happened, right? How somebody can benefit of it. Isn't it? So when they do it, they are mapping literally. That means what? They are seeing the entire breadth of it, and even the depth of it, and trying to figure out, are there anything new? Can we pick something from there? Can we take it forward? Can we just add one more condition, etc., etc.? All those things will become quite interesting to you, isn't it? So when you are doing the mapping job, you are not only observing the current status, but you are also generating fresh ideas within yourself. That is the wonderful part of it. Right? You start exploring, oh my God, why I didn't think of that? Oh, this is fascinating. Automatically ideas will come because idea generation is very important, isn't it? If you go back in history and observe how the scientists researchers developed so many concepts, etc. It's all based on ideas only, isn't it? Somebody thought of something and did it. And as a result, the society progressed. We came out with so many new methods, so many new techniques, etc., and all. Whether it is a field of transportation, field of medicine, or field of anything for that matter, we did them. Then mapping the research landscape in health literacy, they have taken only Scopus publications. Mapping the research landscape, then mapping the research landscape for soil erosion in protected areas. Bibliometric analysis, I will not spend much time on that, maybe in the statistical thing we will come across. Then mapping the research landscape on patient-centered care in the context of chronic disease management, highly specialized, niche area. So as a researcher, you can challenge yourself. Should I take a very, very highly specific niche area so that I stand higher chances of publishing? Or should I go for a very general thing and also that I am safer? Right? There are many journals that will accept my paper. Fine. You have to take the call on, right? Depending upon how granular you want to get into the research field. Okay, it's up to you. Right? For example, I stand up with one research known as, you know very well. Delhi was in news quite often. Of course, it will be always in news for so many reasons. Pollution, particularly the highways. So I identified which is the most polluted national highway in the country. I found out that between Delhi and Noida. So I studied some data. Right? Is it real? Right? Why pollution is happening? What is the reason? Well, more number of trucks. Right? So how many trucks? How can we do something about it? Right? Is it because of something else that the trucks are so many on the road? Right? And how many cars, how many two-wheelers, right? How much they add carbon content, all those things, right? So once we do that, we can develop a policy. Now the pollution is so high because of this. Now can we do like this? That's it. So you are also helping policymakers, right? So you can take up. So just out of curiosity, I did that, right? So similarly, yesterday, some of you might have already seen that, right? We had the Plus 2 results, right? Those of you who have seen the newspapers in the last 2-3 days, right? The PUC results, I mean, right? So many photos, it's a stamp size photos came. Everybody is above 500 only. I thought, oh, this is my next research. So I told my wife, she was laughing. She said, you are a stupid. Who you want to do research? I said, no, just curiosity. Because I never scored 500 and above. So let me see, what is the magic? So I went on collecting all the colleges because they have all given advertisement. So I just started. It started from 5 something, then up to. So I have already collected some 10 college data. Now I'm going to build a paper on that. It was amazing to me. So many, and sent them another thing. In Canada, 100 out of 100. How can it be? Maybe I am a fool, I don't know. So I was having so much of curiosity and I'm still doing research and all. I don't know where to present it anyway, but at least some learning for me. Okay, at least I can tell my students or somebody about that. Fine. So another thing is how fields evolve over time. Right? Because what happens is when a field grows beyond a certain level, the subdomains start coming out, right? The medical science is a beautiful example, isn't it? Right? Earlier doctors, if you go back, of course, maybe of course we are too young. If you ask your parents, they will tell, right? Only one physician was able to do everything. But then slowly, right? For brain somebody, for kidney somebody, liver somebody, right? So somebody even was laughing for left leg, one fellow, right leg, another fellow. Right? Even orthopedics, they say left leg broken, but no, please go to the left side doctor only. I don't need right side orthopedics. Maybe. Right? So much of subdomain. No, it happened in every other field. Right? Every other field. And we have forgotten the names and specializations. Many times we can't even pronounce them. Right? For example, operations management was the first domain, right? Because I am from the engineering background. It's my favorite area. Now it has so many, right? We have quality management, we have performance management, productivity management, so many subdomains, right? Supply chain management, logistics, so many things. So that clearly tells that over a period of time, different fields emerge. And you may be even creating a new field by yourself, by your research. And that will be great. Right? Because you have enriched the field. And people will appreciate it. For example, you can combine IT and supply chain. Beautiful. Right? How IT helps logistics. What kind of thing, right? For example, I mentioned about the pollution, right? You can even do that, right? Suppose if all vehicles are fitted with GPS and all that, can we track them online and can we find out how much of carbon emission is happening every 1 minute? Can we do something about that? Should we go for some hardware, right, so that it can be fitted to the engine and the carbon exhaust can be controlled, or should we do something, right? For example, yesterday I read in the paper, right, all highways will be now having neem trees and all that by the side, planting. Policy decision. So we are playing a role, right? Psychology, cognitive neuroscience, example, education. Yeah, this is of course what is happening. Now, AI-enabled personalized learning. Now, already in Bangalore, for example, many of the school children are going through AI workshops, right? But is it too early to expose them to the AI thing? Is also the question people ask. Now, should they be first of all learning about AI when their intelligence itself is still not yet developed completely? Is also the question raised by the parents, isn't it? So, how much of AI thing has to be now? No, you can start. At what age? 8 things should be introduced in learning process, isn't it? Because as you know very well, technology always comes as a double-edged sword. If you do it in the right way, yes, it helps. If you do the other way, it destructive. For example, drones. In fact, I have done one paper on that, using drones in supply chain management, because they are helping, right? Even the remote area, you can send supplies, essential supplies, for example, medicines. Using drone, you can do that. It's possible. So have they helped us? Yes, definitely. But they have also done the other thing, right? People can use it for a destructive purpose, right? That what we have already in the Iran war. So technology can always bring these kinds of issues. So how much of that we have to adapt? Where we have to stop? So AI is the same problem, right? Oh, I'm having a headache. So what I should do? People raise questions, just like they do in the Google. No, they are now using the AI gurus. So AI will tell something, and people may even blindly follow. Isn't it? That's also a harmful thing. So how exactly personal learning? Yes, of course. For other things like whether you are doing research work or you are doing analysis and all, definitely. Then bibliometric analysis, citations, then database, corpus and web of science, PubMed, very top prominent databases. Then there are also visualization tools, gray literature like policy papers, NGO reports, blogs. So many things are there. See, today there is a very clear. In fact, I used to teach MIS, Management Information Systems, for engineering and for MBA students. One thing I came across in Lord and Lord book, information overload, it is called. Too much of information. Do we really need it? For example, what shirt I should wear for my birthday? You know, that's also a big thing. Right? So for that, there are beautiful articles written, right? And there are also scientific approaches. They will ask your height, weight, whether you are having a big belly, small belly, big shoulder, this one, that one, oh, all those things, right? You may wonder, hey, what is this nonsense? Right? No, you don't know. Sir, it is a very elaborate procedure. The salesman will say, sir, you please stand before the mirror. Let me see. Oh, you are already balding. That means this color will not hold. So take that color. He will tell that. You feel even irritated. Hey, who are this idiot? I say, I am paying whether I take red color or blue color. Why he is worried, you may ask. But he will somehow convince you. Sir, it is a scientific approach. Right? It is not a mirror, please. It is a software-enabled mirror. It is already taking you to 360-degree photos. You don't know how ugly or sorry, how beautiful you are looking. So that we are doing. That is research, isn't it? Already I saw that in one of the saree shows. Right? The lady has to just stand before the mirror and she can be draped in any saree, I mean virtually. Right? Right? You say, great, this is how I look in my twin saree. This is how I look in saree. Ooh, like that she will say. Earlier, you know, right? So some sales girl would have to spend a lot of time every time draping it herself and telling. No, today no, it has become very simple. So should we not appreciate that? Yes. Right? So we need to understand that visualization is a great thing, isn't it? Whatever we were earlier thinking as somehow not possible and all, because once again, curiosity, right? Once again, driven by somebody's fantasy as well. In fact, you may be surprised to know that all the science discoveries happened because somebody's fantasy, including the travel to moon, right? Then spot underexplored and unexplored areas. Yeah, this is something interesting. Are there something that is not yet covered properly? Can I take it up? But you have to be cautious. If it has not been explored by others, and if you want to get into that, it is as good as you walking into the forest. And recently, you know what happened to two girls. One girl at least safely came back, the other unfortunately didn't. So if you are entering a forest, you do not know whether a dinosaur is standing there or a snake is biting you at the back, isn't it? But you have to be daredevil. It doesn't matter, I'm having all the protection, right? Let me. Yes, people have done, right? There are many who have even subjected themselves to such research, landed in serious trouble as well. Fine, but because of their extraordinary effort, courage, and all that, we benefit. For example, a professor in MIT, he wanted to know embedding of chips, whether it will help. So he embedded a chip physically by undergoing a small surgery and put it in the right palm, just to see how it changes. And the news slowly spread that this professor is having an embedded chip here. Everybody refused to handshake with him, saying that something will happen to me because he may do something like this and suddenly I may get a high voltage. Right? So he was wondering, although he explained to everybody, no, it is purely to study myself, they didn't believe. Similarly, another lady, zoologist, she wanted to study something about gorillas and all. So she goes to a particular place in Africa, chooses the area, and she puts up a tent and all. Everybody advised her, no, it's too dangerous. Why are you putting a tent and doing? No, I am interested. I want to study them because she knew that a lot of gorillas were moving around. So I want to capture their behavior. I want to record the sound, how they do, all those things. After some time, when other people went and searched for her, she was no more there. The tent was completely damaged because unfortunately, the gorillas attacked her and killed her. These things are very common, right? In some areas, we do not know. For example, what is there in the ocean depth? That means if you literally want to find out, you have to go there only, Atlantic or Pacific, depending upon how you feel, isn't it? So how much of depth you can go? Right? Because the deeper you go, you know very well, no oxygen. You have to carry your life-saving cylinders, isn't it? No, somebody has done it because somebody wanted to know whether sharks can be there at the depth. Right? It's a typical practical-oriented question. So a researcher wanted to know whether the sharks will be there in the depth. He went literally to the depth, and to his surprise, he found sharks there. And another researcher wanted to find out whether whales, right, the biggest mammals, whether they can come to the surface of the ocean. And he thought they will never come because we don't see them, nah? So they are always hiding. But to his surprise, when he was doing this, suddenly a whale appeared before him, right, jumping like this and throwing tons of water. Then he said, yes, there are. So there are many such cases, particularly in the field of medical sciences. How will you prove that your research works unless you have experimented? Isn't it? Of course, we all heard about guinea pigs. Suppose if the inventor herself or himself wants to become a guinea pig and conduct experiment, is it possible? It's possible, isn't it? But there are certain hidden dangers, isn't it? So luckily in the field of social sciences, commerce and all, we may not have that much of a problem. But in many of the sciences, yes, we do have, isn't it? Right? So we need to be very careful. For example, it is told long by that Hitler also did some experiments. Right? How many people can be there in a room? Right? He went on adding people. Experiment. So 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Then finally everyone was standing like this. And still he went on, finally everybody died. So then he wrote a paper. So after this one, so many people will die. So that was the publication from Hitler. Right? But so many people died. So if you go through the history, you will come across so many such things and all that, which you may be wondering as to whether it is worth doing, right? Now, another current hot area, I am also into that, align with SDGs and funding priorities. Because I think you know probably you might have heard about SDGs. Have you? Sustainable Development Goals. Right? Because India is also one of the signatory countries. By 2030, right, there are 17 SDGs as promised by United Nations. Right? So all signatory countries have agreed that by 2030 we reach, but unfortunately we are slow. India is slow. Now there's a challenge whether India can really meet the target because hardly 3.5 years left. So I was curious to see. Right? So what I did is I have collected data about the top manufacturing companies in India and how many companies are aligning themselves with SDGs. I will let them touch upon that in detail. It's a very fascinating area you can take. And it is very relevant. Government wants it, industries want it, and all that. Right? So you need to study about that. Low cost renewable energy. See, nowadays, one of the biggest, right now we are facing the crisis, isn't it? Right? So what alternative fuels we can think of, what alternative energy sources we can think of, we have to do research, right? No other go, isn't it? So this is where exactly I want to draw your attention, right? So if you are looking for application, yes, you have pure research and applied research. If you are looking for objectives, you have descriptive research, explanatory research, and correlation research. So these things are very commonly happen across the different research domains. Then, of course, quantitative and qualitative, right? Depending upon where you are standing. In fact, obviously, from my background, I am always in love with quantitative, right? I want to apply as many strategies and techniques as possible. Excel is my favorite tool. All subjects I always use Excel, right? So in fact, I keep learning, and it's a powerful tool, right? You can do so many kinds of analysis using that. And of course, all these things will ultimately be helping you to come out with some paper, right? So you can always convert them into a publication quite fast. Then another thing now we are observing as far as the current trends are concerned is the convergence of disciplines. So as I said, no longer the conventional areas hold good. For example, I came across a very interesting case of a professor in US who had applied thermodynamics principles in marketing. First, I thought he might be joking. I said, sir, are you serious? Yes, professor, I have done it. I have used all those enthalpy, entropy concepts. Suddenly, I was a bit blank because in my mechanical engineering, I have studied about all that in thermodynamics. So I was wondering how these concepts go into marketing. So this is exactly the curiosity. Right? Someone can always apply a certain technique or a certain concept to another area and see how it works. Suppose if it is beneficial, why not try it out? Isn't it? So this is the question. So ultimately, your research purpose or objective is to benefit the society, and you have done it. Isn't it? So that's what exactly is the job. In fact, many times out of curiosity, certain new things can happen. So for example, let me take you back to your school days. We are always taught in our primary education levels, right? Go from A to Z. Go from 1 to 10. How many teachers you say, can you also practice the reverse? Actually, has anybody told you? Anybody can quickly say, hey, please recite A to Z alphabet. You say A, B, C, D, E, F, Z, you say. Suppose someone says, hey, go in the reverse. Z, Y, yes. So I start counting, right? First I had to picture and then. Now suppose the teacher has told even the other way, I would have been equally good in that. Isn't it? But you may ask a question now. No, why should we even do the reverse way? Honestly. Does it help? Yes, it helps. Right? It helps. And how do you find a person whether he's right-handed or left-handed, anybody? Because the dominant hand always comes first, right? Even for hitting. Right? So you can experiment, isn't it? If you want to find out, right? But otherwise, suppose if you have to silently watch, how do you find out? Possible?
Yes, watch.
Think first. Now, suppose somebody said, no, instead of left and right, why not I do both? Isn't it? Right? Suppose I give a marker, like then, and they say, he's a magician, fantastic, he writes with both the hands. But somebody will ask, hard is this? Why should you learn writing? That you will feel when one of the hand is having some problem, isn't it? In fact, I myself had a problem, right, due to a fracture. So then I thought, I should have learned the writing with the other hand also. I regret it, but it was too late already. Right? So what I'm trying to say here is, if you are able to imagine the different situations, right? So for example, think of the medical sciences again. Recently I came across a card, right, so beautifully done for the physically challenged people, or even the old age bedridden patients. So nicely. As a mechanical engineer, I really loved it. The way they have put the hydraulic systems and all those angles and all. So an ordinary card converted into a beautiful self-assisted system. Is it not curiosity? Is it not fantasy? This is what we have to do. Right? If someone had not done it, we would not have seen that product. Isn't it? So automation, although we may sometimes dislike saying that it is encroaching upon our opportunities, job opportunities vanishing fast, so on and so forth, but we do like those things because in some special cases, they are very much required. So for example, just you go back to that, I was referring to that forest, no, that girl, 3 days and all. I was wondering, don't we have any tools? Then they said, no, we sent the drones, we did thermal analysis, this, that, blah, 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 and all that. But still, they were unable to locate the girl. And finally, the Adivasis, that's what paper said, were able to find that girl. That means, what is the technology that we have if we cannot even do that? Isn't it? So these are the questions that should always trigger some kind of a new research area, right? So is it possible? Can we do that? So I would rather suggest that you always take such serious examples and all, and think of developing something new so that your research will be highly appreciated, right? So economics with environmental science, I have already mentioned about the sustainability studies. Yes, it is required. Right? For example, being able to come up with a good catalytic converter to minimize the fuel consumption. But is it good for environment? I had to also check, right? So I have to combine what is the cost implication and what is the practicality. So whenever I do that, definitely we will have a better contribution made from our research. So then we also have other. This one, let me quickly run through this, right? So brainstorming, of course, I not spend much time here. Yeah, this many of you might be already knowing that smart goals and all, right? So research also is no exception. Then yeah, I come to this one, selecting a topic, identifying new solution to world problems. Right? So there are so many problems still we are not able to solve. Right? For example, water crisis, energy crisis, right? Rapid transportation. So many issues we have. Right? Particularly preventing fraud. All those things. It is still a challenge. Right? A banker also has his own challenges. A scientist also has his own challenge. Many times you run into trouble. We will not be able to get a solution. Right? So why not we take up? Then of course identifying new problems, identifying new areas that I have already mentioned. So I will not explain. Right? Other one is yes, currently popular hot topics or even controversial topics. Right? Because these are, as I said earlier, helping the society. Okay. So if something can be done by the researcher, yes, the researcher has greatly helped the society. Okay, for example, fraud if you take, right? See, every day you are seeing the cyber crime things, isn't it? Many of you must have already observed, right? Particularly the old people falling prey to that. Now, how do we stop it? Why people still share their OTPs in spite of repeatedly told not to share, isn't it? So what is happening? That means someone must be knowing the trick of eliciting. For example, if I go and ask the gentleman sitting here, hey, please give me your bank account number. He will say, sir, why should I give? But I know how to get it. In 2 minutes, I will make him such that he himself will reveal. But because I know the technique. Then how do I came to know the technique? Because I did research. As simple as that. That means I came to know the fallibility of people and I exploited it. That's all. Isn't it? So this is what exactly. For example, again, if I go back to Japan, they found out that people even going to the first floor, they were using lift. Right? And that over a period of time, they realized that it is affecting their health because they were no longer maintaining proper strength. So what the company did one, up to 5th floor, they didn't allow the lift to work. So only from 5th floor onwards they came. So up to 5th floor they had to climb. People first hated, cursed, got into arguments and all, but they started climbing. But as a result, what happened? The employee health improved. Right? So these are all certain things we can observe only from a distance and do that, right? So we can always take. Then topics with income different correctly, old topic, yes, revisited, right? Will it hold good? For example, somebody said long back 20 years ago this, will it still hold good? You can explore. Right? One field of application to another, I have already said. Which grants are available, obviously, aligned with institutional objectives and themes, yes, topics based on invitation by editor. Now, this is something interesting. Suppose if you have already made a name for yourself, from the editor or somebody else. What? So there's a recognition for it, right? Definitely use all these things. Then, of course, there will be no escape. So this exactly. You don't get recognized because it's too simple. They will my high school friends, but then complaint the PhD, right? They say, I think my high school students right there. Because there was book myself in many times literally struggle because it's too simple, too hard. So if I have a place to competition challenge this, other may have to sweat. It's worth it because we would have done it. Right? It takes pretty. Once you go to the literature, you will definitely find it. Another thing is, yes, all these things are possible: extension, summarization, variation, refinement, generalization. But be very careful with generalization. Right? You may be choosing a certain topics and you feel that why not it? No, generalization and very careful. Particularly when we look into the internationality part of it. Right? What works here, not there. It's quite obvious. Right? For example, safety. of people, safety of vehicles, safety of animals, whatever you take, right? Country to country variations are there. So we cannot generalize. Is it? And some of the systems simply don't work at all. In fact, for example, long back, somebody was telling me that in US or somewhere, they sell newspapers, they keep it on the road, and there'll be a box where people pick a copy and put the money in the box and they go like that, right? So hardly anybody. So can we do that here? Keep a bunch of newspapers in a box. After some time, you'll see both of them missing. Right? So what works there may not work here, isn't it? In fact, I still remember in one of the international travel, right, in Lufthansa, so the cabin crew, she said, sorry, would like to drink something to the person seated next to me. The fellow looked at her and he simply looked at the bottle she was carrying. He simply snatched the bottle. So that lady was taken aback. Hey, you are only supposed to take a small this one, right? I have to pour it into a glass. Forget about it. I am a very old, seasoned alcoholic, he said. Right? So how many of us expected such a situation? Let us say a cabin crew is undergoing training. This is an exceptional situation. So how should she handle it? Politely she has to, right? Because she cannot offend the passenger. So research can stem out from any of the observation. People will behave like this. It can happen like this. So there is a scope for you to expand and learn. Isn't it? So next they realize, they advise the cabin crew not to carry the bottle. Because somebody may be too tempted to take the bottle itself. Isn't it? So as I said, many times we may have to learn from so many issues, right? I just skip time. Yeah, I coming to a few points on this one. It's closing in a few minutes. Research design, yes, you please follow it. It is also a very big topic, right? Just recently I covered it in the case OU classes for the PhD scholars. Research design, but it has to be studied, right? In depth, you have to study, right? It's a separate study on its own. Then, yeah, research design, as I said, it is separate. This one. Then data analysis, of course. Yeah, nowadays coming to this one, all journals ask for one important question: from where did you get the data? And the data should be verifiable. If you are using a simulated data or a synthetic data, paper is not accepted. This I found it myself because I had done one study on defect analysis and a production system, right? Continuous stage by stage, multi-stage production. To my surprise, I found out that they didn't accept it synthetic data. But where do you get the real data then? Field-based data, of course, or from some other source, if it is publicly available. There are some publicly available sources, right? Even our own Indian statistical organizations, they do give such data. You have to use that only because the editor or the reviewer should be in a position to verify the content of the data, right? So please don't use because data manipulation is easy, isn't it? That is the reason why they discourage. See, for example, you know the joke probably, right? Particularly those of you from laboratory experiments and all that, right? So the usual this one in the exam is first you plot the graph, right? Like what you want, and then take the points from there and write it in the table. If you do the other way, you don't get the curve properly. The curve will be in some other direction, which your examiner will reject, isn't it? So they used to tell like that. Then introducing crossovers I have already mentioned, right? Gaps and opposites I have already mentioned, right? Yeah, this is of course before I conclude, just a few points. AI has now made a serious impact about it, right? Every day, tools come. I know it seems as well as proliferation of literally right, GPT, complexity, large, so many have you. Just yesterday also I was exploring another one. And in fact, I was surprised. After I completed my paper, the tool gave so many versions. It created a blog, it created a podcast, it converted into slides, it converted into video, it converted into so many things which I never expected. All that I gave was my paper. So many formats. What else you want it as? I thought I'm telling, okay, please construct a song, let me dance. Right? Maybe it will do that. Right? Of course it has done. Right? In fact, when I was teaching my sustainability class, the MBA student, I did that. Students didn't believe me. I even constructed a song, created music using a guitarist and all those, and I played it in the class. The students were surprised. They said, "Sir, how can you do?" I said, no, AI do thanks to it, not me. So everything you can do that, right? Fine. So please be aware of that. But the question here is nowadays, yeah, let me caution you, all journals are expecting now a declaration from the author. Have you used an AI tool? If so, what it is and for what purpose you have to declare. Of course, grammar checking softwares are allowed, like Grammarly or Ginger and all those things, right? But if you are using any other AI tool, you have to declare. Otherwise, because all those software plagiarism detecting softwares like Authenticate and all those things, right? Turnitin and all, they detect it. Because particular people like us from India who are not the native speakers of English, they can find it out. If your language is very flowery, rosy, and all that, they can easily make it out. Oh, come on, this is not your language. Okay, fine. So let us be very careful about it. Right? So this is just to give you an example. AI tools for mapping the research landscape. Even you can do that comfortably. Right? I came across this paper, very interesting paper. Then some of these things, research rabbit, semantic scholar, connected papers, answer this. So many are there. I am just showing 3 examples. Right? It's my hobby almost every day. I use one tool and let me see. Right? So this is an example I have shown here, mapping the landscape of AI research in higher education. Beautiful paper. Yeah. Those from teaching and all should definitely read this. Right? One of the very interesting paper, mapping the landscape of AI research in higher education. It really gives you a very good explanation of what is happening or what is transforming in the higher education. Right? And this, of course, I have already said, a drug discovery as an example I have shown here. Then, of course, this is what is expected in ethics, right? You have to be careful. You have to explain everything and all because content generation is very easy. You just give one sentence and it will write. Right? So even story, everything you can quickly generate. So, but you have to be careful. So this is the SDG thing I was referring to about because now SDG 6, that is particularly with respect to water, is now very crucial, particularly with respect to our country also. Now this is a very hot research area. Okay, right? So definitely we can. So the challenges are slow progress, climate change, funding gap, urbanization, data scarcity, all these things, right? Then of course links to other SDGs. This is also another research area. I strongly suggest anybody to take it up. It is interdisciplinary. Okay. So SDG 3, 4, 5, and 13, how they are related. Right? So that also can be very well explored and a lot of scope for publication. Because these are the hard and emerging areas. Okay, so please spend some time on that. Right? And this is a bibliometric analysis in a visualized form. Right? You can see all these things, right? Water quality, water resources, water supply, sanitation, right? All those things. Then this can, you can, of course, should not do it manually, you cannot also, right? AI will automatically generate it for you. So what more you want? Isn't it? So now I expect from each one of you top level publication. And because all the tools are available to you, right? So no longer you can allow yourself the luxury of writing an ordinary paper. Sorry. You have to now go to the top notch paper because all tools are available, right? Okay. So that's what the so let me thank you all for your interest in that, right? I think we'll take a break, right? Thank you for the wonderful opportunity given. Thank you, Madam, for inviting me.
Tea is being served outside. You may please step out, refresh yourself, and join us back shortly. Those who have not signed after registration are required to go near registration counter and sign the registration sheet. Water cans are kept outside. Those who want to refill your bottles, water bottles, you can refill the water bottles.
submitting, when you are in the process of writing. Okay, so how do we select the outlet for it? Right? The journal, as we commonly refer to the space or the publication, where we have to submit and get it published, all those things happen, right? So here, there are several, because as I have already said, just like the research area which has spread across for a longer or a broader domain, this journal thing also has become like that. Okay, if you ask a question, how many journals are there, I may not be able to answer because we don't have an idea. Because journals too have become pretty common things all over the world. Every country has its own right top level of journals and all. Although we focus more on English, right? Because unless we have a passion to write in some other language. But today again, there's a solution for that. You can even get your paper translated automatically by a tool and publish it in a different language as well, right? That's also quite possible, right? Let's not rule it out. So let us go ahead with the thing that is, as I have told. So as I said, the publication in journal is nowadays becoming quite a challenge. So this is what exactly I'm going to cover here, right? That is starting from what exactly the publication process, then journal key factors that we have to consider, then journal suggestion tools which are now available from all the top publishers like Wiley, Sage. I take you through that. Then quantitative decision model, which I have myself developed, right, out of my own curiosity, which you can adapt if you are comfortable with the decision-making process. Then, of course, we have some suggestions like tweaking the paper, which is very much required. Okay. Then we have, of course, the case study. I take you through that. Then some publishing tips and all those things. We close them, right? So let me start the process. That is, since we fine. So this is the stage, right? You are an author. You want to publish. At what stage you are in your paper writing, right? So you can see this. If you are still like this in the first case, paper, me, writing, like that means you are still in the process of right finding yourself where I have to start. Right? In fact, you know where starting trouble is a very common thing. So where do I start? How do I start? Etc. All those things, right? So don't worry about all those things because nowadays all these things have been taken care of. Whereas in my case, when I started long back, decades ago, it was a challenge. Nobody, I never attended any workshop like this because there were first of all no workshops like that conducted in those days. Right? It was good in a way because I learned everything self. Right? So no workshops, no this thing, no that thing and all that. So we had to practice and the only source was library. But today, no, you don't have to physically go there. Everything is available, right, in your desktop or laptop, whatever it is, right? So there's an advantage. That means what? You have already crossed several steps in the publication process, which means a drastic saving in time and labor. Okay, that's a wonderful advantage today we have, right? So let us ask one question. Because we are in the process of now publishing, what is that the editors and reviewers look for? So all those points are very clearly mentioned. The most important is the first one, originality. Is it original? Right? Because people started, you know, right, unethical ways and all that. Naturally, one question that commonly asked is it just a content taken from some other source without disclosing the source, perhaps? A fraudulent practice, right, which is strongly discouraged. It is considered as a dishonest practice and all that. An academician particularly is not supposed to do that. Then, of course, the relevant and adequate literature review, do you have that? Then, of course, the methodology you have followed, right? Then another one is quality of communication. Now, this is a tricky thing. Although we claim, right, we are good in writing and all that, but when we go for a structured writing, that too for a particular category of journal, how well our sentences communicate what we want to say. Is the reader in a position to understand what we have there? So for that also there are certain typical grammar checking tools are there, and even readability tools are there. You can do that, right? Is it readable at a high school level or a college level or only at an element? All such things you can easily do that for your paper. In fact, we should do that, right? Because as a writer, we may think that, well, we have written very neatly. But from the other side, that is from the reader's point of view, it may be different. Or it may be even not understandable, and people may lose interest. And in fact, one of the fundamental reason for not accepting the paper is its poor communication, right? Lot of mixing up happens, jumping happens, no consistency in the use of words and sentences, and lot of juxtaposition, so many things, right? So editors will definitely not be happy. Then results, obviously they look into that, what results we have got, right? And then implications. That's what. If you go back, is there a benefit to the society? Can it help the industry people? Can it help the policy makers? These are the typical questions the editor asks. Because the value of the paper is decided by these two, the results and the implications. If your paper is able to contribute to society, it's higher value. They consider as, yes, let us take it for publication. But suppose if it is not having any such implication, they may say, okay, fine, it is just like a paper, let us see. Maybe we will not take it immediately, right? So we have to be careful about it. Then this is, of course, for the writer to decide. There is no hard and fast rule here. You have to take a call. In the next 6 months, I am going to publish. In the next 1 year, I am going to publish 2 papers. Or in the next 1 semester, I am going to write. So whatever it is, right? You please have your own timelines. Create an Excel sheet if you can do that, or even use any organizer tool available freely. Right? And every day you mention the progress or note it down in your pad or whatever it is, so that you keep track of how much you have done. And for that also there are tools available nowadays. Right? It will even tell you, suppose if you decide the target, every day I write 300 words. Whether you have met that target or not, tools are available. Right? It will even tell you where you stop, how many you still have to complete. Everything is now technology driven, right? You do not have to even think of anything doing manually. There's an advantage. Then also arrange for resources. So as I said, your resources are mainly already published sources, books, journals, papers, etc. Plus, in addition to that, you can also refer to industry reports, annual reports, blogs, so many things, right? And better you also subscribe. Many of them are freely available, right, on subscription. And they may not charge also. So please take a subscription. For example, you are doing something related to aviation, right? International travels. Take a subscription. OAG, right? I am a subscriber, free. I get all the data, busiest airports, which 2 routes are always, all such things, right? Even I did a research on baggage problems, right? In how many airports missing baggage thing happens, which is the most notorious airport where people lose their life, right? Very good, interesting research. Policy implication. Right, I got all the data from OA. So like that, depending on, for example, you are doing something related to agriculture, right? You want to have a data about fertilizers and yes, you can get it. So please subscribe to such data sources or newsletters so that it will help you to come out with good. So because ultimately somebody will also check what references the author has made. Okay, right? That will also be a plus point towards publication. So this is what we expect. Intention is to share the new knowledge. You have to share it, right? Because once you make it public through your publication, right, it means you are sharing the knowledge, right? So let us. Now this is a very general thing. Just for the heck of it, I am showing here. One is your own desire, intrinsic. Nobody telling you, right? For example, for me, I'm doing it on my own. Nobody told when I started my first paper long back in 1979. I didn't even know what a paper is, but I wrote it, presented it in Institute of Engineers, Mysore local chapter. That was the first paper I wrote in my life when I was in my final year of engineering. I didn't even know, but they said yes, you have to write for Solar Congress. A conference was held in Institute of Engineers. I wrote a paper on solar water heaters and I presented it. Right? So I just started off almost on an accidental mode. But today you don't have it, right? You have everything available and you can be a very good writer right from the beginning. Then extrinsic motivators are obviously, right? You are looking for a recognition, award, incentive, mandatory requirement, selection process, publicity, join in groups. All those things are there. Okay, right? For example, one of my paper I had written long back. Recently, somebody from Indonesia sent a note saying that, oh, it's a beautiful paper, it helped me. I was surprised because it's a bold paper on it. right? So you do not know. Somewhere somebody would read, they may appreciate, right? They may even recognize you, they may invite you. So many things, right? For example, today I am in the editorial board of 3 journals. All this happened only because research, right? I never applied or they did because they observed somebody said, okay, we are happy to invite you. Are you interested? I said, yes, okay, fine. No, my name is there in the editorial board. Whoever writes for the journal, they will see my name. Everything will be there, right? So that's an advantage. Though monetarily it may not benefit you much, but at least you get the world over recognition. Now, let us ask another important question when you are in the publishing process. Acceptance rates across different indexing databases. Now, this is a very critical decision you have to take. Many colleges and all that, they insist that it should be in Q1, Q2 only. But the challenge is the acceptance rate is very low. For example, Journal of Finance, 5%. For every 100 papers submitted, only 5 papers get accepted. That means you have to be really good in your field to get your paper. But once you get published, imagine you are in the top, right? So you need to understand here that to start up, yes, better we choose quartile 4, right? Where the acceptance rate is high, you don't get disappointed, at least you stand a chance of getting published. So although I am tempted to try with Q1 and Q2, Scopus based, it's not easy. And they themselves clearly tell, my strong suggestion to you is please visit the website of Scopus. Look at yourself. What information is available? They get everyday papers, every day. Hundreds of papers are submitted. Right? Many papers are not at all even given a second chance. They are simply dismissed in the very beginning. Okay. So, and another issue is the reviewers. They don't get reviewers to review many papers. So as a result, your paper may be just kept in a cold storage because no reviewer available. There are many different techniques. Sometimes the journals for one journal even ask the writer, author, please suggest 3 reviewers. So you can choose and you can read. Typically, who do you choose as the reviewer? Those who are already published in your domain, and also the ones, the references what you have used now, you use them as a reviewer. You suggest them, although it may not necessarily go ultimately depending on so many reasons, right? At least we can mention. I would recommend the following 3 authors as the reviewers. Many journals do that. Some journals don't do that because they have their own database of reviewers. They just send it to them, right? So you have to be very careful deciding upon the quartile in which you have to place, right? Then, when should an author start searching for a journal? This question may look a bit redundant here, but there are 3 possibilities, right? Take a look at it. Okay, 3 stages. Before you start, before, that means during writing or after writing. But I have put one thing at the end known as advantages for authors. If we are doing after writing, slow. If we are doing before, it is high. But you may ask a question here. Now, how can I even think of it when I do not even know? There is research. You have to do research first, right? Suppose if you are doing in supply chain management. Now, what are the different journals publishing articles on supply chain management? First, that you have to do the landscape, right? I have mentioned already mapping. First, you do that. Figure it out. It may be from different publishers, InterScience, Sage, Emerald, Thomson Reuters, anybody for that matter, right? You choose. Take a look at it and then figure out. Suppose if I'm focusing on this, okay, Journal of Cleaner Production from Springer. Now, what is that I have to write? So that helps you. Before writing, if you do that exercise, you are in a better position to decide the content, make it properly focused and aligned with the journal of your choice. However, there is no hard and fast rule. Suppose nobody can say that, okay, after writing, no, you can do that. Sometimes I have done it. I finish a paper and then I start checking, okay, can this go here, here, here? You can do that, right? But if you can do it before, the advantage is you can make your paper properly structured with respect to the journal. Okay, so your time spent on revision, modifications, and all those things. Otherwise, after you have done this, you have to naturally make some changes because every journal expects a certain format, a certain kind of an approach, and all those things, right? Although it may not be very clearly visible in the beginning, it will be there. If you closely observe, you will see a pattern. Oh, this pattern I have to follow. Otherwise, the editor will not accept. Okay, so for example, one of the commonly used suggestion by many authors is for writing a paper, IMRAD. Have you heard of IMRAD? IMRAD. introduction methodology, right? All those things, right? So there's a very common jargon they use. You follow IMRAT technique. Okay, but the question is the journal following it? Is the editor observing it? Is the reviewer accepting it? Not necessarily. It is a common method they suggest, but not necessarily encouraging you to get a high rate of acceptance. These are certain points. Now, why journal choice matters? Many people ask one question. Now, suppose if I send it randomly, maybe just by going the title, because what has happened over a period of time is even some of the journals, though they claim to be focused more on some topics, they say that even outside those topics, they are willing to accept. Right? Because you know very well for various reasons. For example, you want to do an international journal of productivity and performance management by Emerald. So you will think that, okay, I have to focus only on productivity and performance management. But the performance management may be not necessarily driven by engineering thing, or it may be even HR related. So if you are a HR specialist and you have written a paper where you know how to improve the performance, you can even focus on that. Whereas I, as a production person, I may be interested in encouraging performance based on the automation system. So I may write a paper using automation as my fundamental theme. But again, I take the same journal. So how is that a HR-based person and a production-based person choose the same journal? Because there's a common theme that is connecting the two. Okay, so you can definitely think of whether a journal is willing to take those kinds of things or they are very restrictive because it decides your acceptance or rejection. Many journals are nowadays very strict. They simply reject the paper. They don't even give a chance. They don't even offer an explanation. I have suffered all that. In fact, I have even seen harsh remarks from the editors to my papers. Your paper is just 1, 2, 3, 4. They write. They don't care a damn about how you feel. Why should they rather? Isn't it? So they simply write your paper is highly unacceptable. It doesn't have anything, right? There is no merit. Even the writing is bad, communication is bad, references are insufficient, methodology is irrelevant. AK-47, they file. And by reading at it, next day you simply say, let me not write anything further. And say, let me just go to Bandipur and wash some lands and tigers. Okay. Right? That will be the kind of expressing demand. That has happened to me also, right? In fact, one editor wrote to my paper, I refuse to read it completely. I asked, who is refusing to read it? Have I written in Kannada by any chance? No. Definitely I had written in English only. So I was unable. Then I wrote a very polite letter. But of course, editors don't answer. Reviewers don't answer. Although I am also a reviewer, but I read all the, in fact, Emerald, time permits, I will show that, right? Emerald has a very structured review process. We have to enter everything and we have to also make comments to the authors. But unfortunately, not all journals follow this. So author may be still confused or not having enough idea as to why exactly his or her paper was not accepted. It's very tricky. Sometimes you feel frustrated, bored, so many things can happen. But you cannot give up. Right? You cannot give. You have to accept it. It's a part of process. Then visibility, citations, and career progression. See, again, these are all becoming very controversial. For example, I used to sit in faculty interview. One of the first questions they ask a new fellow is, okay, well, how many papers you have written? How many citations you have got? The fellow will be simply looking at window and all those things. Because first of all, many people do not even understand the question. Right? So they get totally, how many papers? Sir, where, sir, they will ask. Right? So all kinds of things have seen. So the reason is quite understandable. Not everyone is comfortable with research, isn't it? Am I right or not? See, typically in a teaching profession, assuming that many of you are, we have ART, administration, research, and teaching. Right? Sometimes it may become, the order changes depending upon where you are. As you move up the ladder, right, in your positions, you may be more on administration and almost zero teaching, right, when you become principal, director, something like that. But when you are in a lecturer stage, you are more on to teaching. But when you are in between, you have to do teaching, research, and administration. Very commonly followed. Okay. So the question here is, depending upon the stage you are in, you have to focus your time. So where is the time for that? Research doesn't happen just like that. You need to spend time, isn't it? Particularly if you have a family responsibility, right? There is an additional challenge for you. In fact, many of the people do express all these things. Right? Professor, for it is very easy for you to tell, but we are not finding time. Time is a major constraint. But luckily today we have enough tools, yes, we can save on time. That is a plus point I would say compared to what I used to struggle in those days. Even because just to give you an example, for getting some papers, I even traveled to IISc in Bangalore, Indian Statistical Institute in Kolkata, then another institute in Hyderabad. I have traveled spending thousands of rupees just to get some papers. But today, luckily, you don't have to do that. Right? They are all available in databases. You either take a subscription or you just take whatever is freely available. Then aligns research with the right audience and impact. Now, this is something very tricky. We'll see again. Now, publishing can be done even in conference and journals. Okay. Many times, one suggestion people give for the budding authors is you first put it in a conference, see the response. Okay. And if you get favorable response, appreciation, then convert it to a journal paper. No, it's allowed. Okay. But you cannot submit the whole thing as it is. You have already published in conference, you have to make significant changes and then send it there. Okay. The other way you cannot do that. First publish in journal and bring it to conference, not usually allowed because it is already in a public domain. But the advantage in conference is you can meet similar people in your presentation time, right? Get the feedback from the session chairperson, fellow authors. So many things are possible, right? Although nowadays conferences are becoming another mela and jatre. So, right, nobody even bothers because I saw it one conference, HR conference. There was a paper on rice production. I was the session chairman and I had to immediately search for some juice or something just to see that I don't get head spinning. Then I asked the coordinator, Madam, what is this? How is rice production and HR? Sir, I think there is some connection. I let you know, and she walked away. Of course, she never came back. So, quite often this is the thing. And in fact, in another case, I was the session chairman again. One fellow started presenting, then two fellows from the backside, they got up. Sir, stop. So I said, hey, what happened? Sir, this is from textbook. They are just putting the textbook content chapter number 5 as paper. And you, chairman, you are accepting it. They blamed me also. I said, no, I never said I accepted. I'm just watching like you only. Where is this? I said I accepted. Oh, is it from a textbook? Yes. Then I asked the author, I said, what is this from textbook? How? The fellow simply, what is wrong? Why can't I stop from that textbook? What is wrong? So everybody said, sir, please go ahead. So I have attended so many conferences. In fact, almost half of my papers are in conferences only. Right. I've gone through all these things. And I have also seen certain horrible experiences. Because what happens is people come to conference only to collect a bag, pad, pencil, etc. And afterwards, nobody will be interested. Okay, they again come only during the lunch break, tea break, and finally they'll be waiting for the certificate. Right? In one conference, the conference coordinator was so upset, he threw all the certificates outside on the table. And he simply announced, all the certificates are kept outside, please collect and got. And he walked away. And everybody thought there'll be a separate validity function and person in. No, nothing happened. They just kept the certificates there. He was so frustrated. So I have seen enough, right? In another conference, only 2 persons were there in the session. One, the presenter, the other was the session chairman. So imagine if that is the case in yours. So conferences, be very careful. Now have enough of courage. Right? I went all the way to Delhi, IIT Delhi to present my paper. Nobody was there. So I was just looking. Nobody came. What happened? Then finally one fellow slowly walked in. I was very happy. Oh, sir, I have to come, I say. I am the coordinator, I say. Oh, you are the author. You just go and say something and go out. Huh? What is this? Sir, this is a conference or what? I don't know, you just go out, I say. And he said, and he was already sleeping like this. So then I realized, oh, great. And in other, this one, I was the last. See, be always careful, never be the last author for presentation. So I was unfortunately the last. And after presentation, everybody would go. Along with them, another 3 fellows will go. So finally, I was the only fellow sitting in the last row. And the chairman looked at me, oh, you are the last person, nah. Oh, good present, pa. I think I can give you only 5 minutes, sir. Sir, wait 5 minutes, sir. I came all the way traveling. So what? 5 minutes you tell me and go. He told. So I simply said, sir, the title of the paper and my name, and I. So conferences very good, but only then you may ask a question. Are there not advantages? There are. You write anything, it is accepted. Because conference is money, right? So more the merrier, isn't it? So every conference organizer will be always looking for more submissions. So more the merrier. So naturally, any paper you write, right? How the tomato prices are fluctuating, you write that is also accepted. Right? Is there a challenge in the aviation sector because of the fuel prices? That is also anything to anything. Fine, right? So now let's go to the next one. This is of course another interesting thing you have to take a look. They have different indexes, right? Take a look at it, decide where your paper is suitable, and then take a call. Now, common challenges I want to draw your attention to these things. Desk rejection. Now, this is very common. Particularly, of course, there are many, unfortunately, biases happening. You can see this. Springer, Wiley, they are all very rich. Very rich. Because they put someone as the editor who is a highly accomplished author in a very top level university, and all. That fellow will not even have the patience to read the title also, forget about the paper. So he simply do like this. Right? Because his job is that. The more he rejects, the more he will be considered as a this one. So you have to be extremely careful, and he will not give any reason. He will simply say, no, the research appears to be incomplete. So, what is incomplete there? Abstract is incomplete, methodology is incomplete, conclusion is incomplete, everything is incomplete. Nobody answers. So you have to take a call. Right? So desk rejections are very common. Because so many papers are being submitted, even editors is frustrated many times, quite often they lack the patience, time. Rejected, right? I still remember long back, there was some very popular magazine in Canada. And the editor of that magazine had clearly written, we are receiving so many stories, because the magazine is stories, right? We don't even have the time to read. So please don't send stories, he had written in one of the issues. Because people are reading stories, so many, right? Submitting to overly competent with low acceptance, please don't attempt it. Q1, Q2, don't attempt in the very beginning unless you have a strong reason. Long and unpredictable peer review, this is another problem. Reviewers take their own sweet time. Although many journals insist that the reviewer should complete in the next 6 weeks. For example, Emerald sends to me whenever they send a paper, right? Please complete this by, they give a deadline. But the reviewer violates the deadline, what the editor can do. So that is why many editors send it for multiple reviewers simultaneously, 3 or 4. So even if they get 2 results from the reviewers, that is good for them. Okay, right? So confusion about indexing, yes, quite logical. There are unfortunately certain unethical practices. I come to them. Unclear or misleading journal indexing claim. Yes, you have to be very careful. Many people claim that our journal is corpus indexed. It is not. They would have been there, perhaps they are removed, or they are still in the process of getting it and all. So please don't be misled by them. Right? And in conferences, you must have observed, right? All the selected papers will be later published in corpus index journal. You must have seen them. But what is that selected process? And who is selecting that? Nobody does. After waiting for 6 months, you will get a note. Your paper is not selected. Then what will you do? 6 months you have wasted time. You didn't send it to any journal also. So please be very careful about those kinds of, right? You never know. So again, I will give one broad choice like this. National, international, right? You start with national, go to international. Obviously, that's how I also did. Then you have 3 categories. University colleges are also nowadays publishing journals. I have given an example, Delhi University Journal of the Humanities and Social Sciences. So the advantage in university and all that is they have got a higher level of acceptance. You can try that, right? So they say, and secondly, those publishing people, they also have their own pressure. They have to publish the article, they have to bring out the volume, right? Otherwise, they'll have some issues and all, right? For example, I have also done editing, right? In fact, I was the founder editor in SDMMD Journal, in Vidyavasaka Journal, and other journal in Kerala also, right? So I have seen enough of all this editing, publishing. Horrible it is. Sometimes you don't get articles. You have to literally beg, right? All such cases will also happen, right? We have to be extremely careful about it. Then professional associations, IEEE, for example, for the electrical and electronics engineers, Institution of Engineers, they have got journals in all the areas, metallurgy, mechanical, civil, electrical, like that. So I can even choose them. Okay. Then publishing houses is what normally we look at, right? Emerald, SY, Sage, Springer, InterScience, and all those people. The idea here is these publishing houses or agencies have a huge number of publications under their belt. So you have a choice compared to the earlier two. Okay, so you take a call. Should I submit? And many times the university or even the professor association may not charge you, right? What we normally call as APC, authors processing charges, right? Or author processing fees. They may not charge because they are looking for papers. But these people can charge. It may even cost a bomb. So you have to be very careful. For example, recently I saw in Journal of Nature. Do you know the article processing charge for that? 3.8 lakh rupees. So 3 years salary you may have to forget for one paper. Right? So I decided. But I wrote a song, this one, there was a debate. I was also one of the person invited by the editor to give. I strongly wrote, please do not insist, we cannot pay. See, in the US and all, it's a different ballgame. The industry supports the research, universities have funds, they encourage the authors. Okay, please, I will pay, but here, who will pay for you? Isn't it? And if you start spending 3.8 lakhs for one paper, after 5 years, you have to quit the job. Right? Or you will have left nothing. Of course, you quit the job because you will not have anything ultimately. All those things will happen. Isn't it? And nowadays, almost all journals have come to this stage. And they even show you some different tags, like golden passport. What is golden passport? That means you have to pay in gold only. Very simple understanding. Not much of a difficult thing to understand, is it? Right? And they even show you, see, your name will come in all these places. You will be recognized. You will be invited to London, Sydney, Toronto, all those things they will show. Right? Because they want money. Very simple. It's a commercial model, basically. And sensing that now too many journals have started coming. And India is notorious for that. Some 3 professors will join and they start their own journal. Right? Can you believe? I know that. I don't want to tell the names. Right? So, because money. So, this has created, unfortunately, lot of unfortunate, unethical things. Extremely careful. And that is why today, when you say that I have published, many people don't consider that seriously. Oh, you might have paid some money and it has been published. Who cares? See the kind of thing. Although I do agree that there are expenses involved on the part of publications and nothing wrong in charging. But that should not become a business model. You pay the money, we publish. No, that should not become. But unfortunately, we do have such instances, right? So when we look at the journal of publication, these are some of the points that you will definitely look at it, right? Is there a rule that you have to publish in ABDC? That is Australian Business Deals Council, right? Is there a rule like that? Your college says that, or your guide is telling, or Web of Science, please follow, right? Then, suppose if you have no such things, then you can overcome that, right? You can skip that. Then periodicity. Now here you have to be careful. If you are looking for the journals which are published only once in a year or only 2 times in a year, the chances are low. So always think of going for monthly and quarterly. Okay, that's an advantage. Many of the business schools, many of the institutions are now having monthly, quarterly. Okay, so that's an advantage. Focus on them so that your chances of acceptance will be high. Okay. Then cost of publication, I have already said. Although there are many journals still ready to publish. Earlier, you may not believe me, for publication, they used to pay money because they want to encourage. In fact, I received 3,000 rupees when I published a paper in the Indian Society of Technical Training and Development, ISTD. I got 3,000 rupees. Similarly, I got for another paper 2,000 rupees from Jim's 8M management. Nowadays, it is the ulta. You have to pay. Right? Nobody will pay you like that. Then, of course, we have another factor to consider, namely age of journal. You may ask a question, why? If the journal is already having a long history, your chances are very low. Because as I said, experts will be there, stalwarts will be there, right? They'll be looking through a lens. Everything they check, right? Because they will have a well-established team of reviewers, everybody. So chances are very low. But if it's a new journal, because the journal also requires papers, they may encourage. So you stand a better chance. So please check, right? If it's a very old journal, of course, the very old journal, the advantage, for example, Business Quarterly in US, very old journal, right? And if you publish, you will become a celebrity. Obviously, right? I don't know how many of you have heard of FT50. Have you? Anybody? Earlier it was FT45, now it's FT50. See, it is actually for the business-related courses and all that. It is published by New York Times. FT stands for Financial Times, and they have a list of 50 journals. In US, if you publish in that FT50 journal, you are straight away invited to join the faculty. Very simple. They ask only one question when you have to apply. Are you publishing FT50? Yes, please. Otherwise, sorry. Very simple rule of filtering. In India, ISB, Indian School of Business, Hyderabad, they follow that. If you have already published in FT this one and all that, yes, you can apply for a faculty position. Otherwise, sorry. Right? So, many times the journal publication will have a serious implication in your career. Do not forget that. Right? So, hence, choosing this journal definitely matters. Because if you are particularly looking to join some top ranked institutes and all, you have to be careful. You cannot take chances. So, place of publication. This, again, you may ask why this is coming here. Because what happened is, over a period of time, many of the non-English speaking countries, for example, it may be some European countries or South American countries, like Brazil or Argentina, they are also now encouraging English public. You can send them, you have a better chance. Malaysia, for example, yes, you have a better chance. Indonesia, you have a better chance. Okay, so you can think of that. Whereas if you straight away go to US, UK, you have a tough time, right? Because people will be definitely filtering every part of the paper. Then focus, fit, and relevance. This we definitely know that, right? One of the, for example, if it is a journal on sustainability, I can not send a paper on stock investment. It doesn't make sense, right? I have to understand whether it makes sense. Then special issue, regular, general versus specific. That also you can look. Sometimes, just to encourage a particular domain, a journal may announce our next journal will focus only on. Just observe it. Suppose your research area falls into that, you choose that. You have an advantage. Okay. Because they will be looking for specialized articles in that area. Then, of course, take a look at this. Publisher, editor, editorial board. If you know someone, be happy about that. But of course, it doesn't mean that the fellow will encourage you. But say, right? For example, I still remember I know many people in the US and all who are in various states, but they don't encourage just because we know them. They simply say that sorry, professor, you have to still come to the same group. I cannot give you a separate this one just because I know you. Right? But by looking at them, you can come to know whether they are already stalwarts, are still in the field of this one, or super seniors and others. Because if that is the case, yes, it will go through a rigorous verification. Right? So you have to be very careful. So please check also. Right? Today, the one good thing is many of the Indian professors are there in many universities world over. And most of them are also holding editorial positions. For example, I know one of my senior in PhD, Gunesekaran. He's in top journals, editor, right? So he's highly recognized, particularly for papers related to production, operations, and all that. But just because I know him, I cannot say, hey, Gunesekaran, please take my paper. No, it won't happen. But at least I will come to know that he is there. That means he will be having 1, 2, 3, 4 as the usual reckoner for verification. So I can follow. So by observing that also, you stand a chance of better acceptance, right? So as I said, please ask the question, does the journal publish articles on your topic? It may look very redundant, but people do these mistakes. For journal of food production, they write something on manufacturing and send, thinking that, oh, I thought like that. See, what you thought, who cares? Isn't it what editor thought? That's it. So let us be very careful. Right? So then impact and visibility, I will not go through all these things, please, because it takes a little time to understand impact pattern, site score, H index. There are so many numericals nowadays available to decide, okay, whether it is good, this one, right? For example, H index can be there even for an institute. H index can be there for an author. In fact, nowadays in the interview, be ready to answer such questions. What is the H index they will ask? Straight away, they can tell you whether you are a good researcher or not. Okay. In fact, some of the institutions announce it with pride. Our faculty are in this range, right? It's a matter of prestige. Then audience, regional, global, that's what I said. If you are writing something only with a local thing, then you cannot expect an international journal to accept it. Because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't hold good. Then access model, open access or subscription. Yeah, subscription model is nowadays very popular. What instead of asking the author, they say that let your library subscribe to the paper. Okay, so if you can convince your principal or head of the department or chairperson, director, whatsoever, and if they agree for subscription, the journal waives off your article processing fee. Okay, the advantage is you can also immediately circulate it. You can make it public. Otherwise, please be very careful. Don't put your paper on the internet. You will be taken seriously because there will be an embargo. Okay, right? Many people write to me, sir, please share your paper. No, I'll never share. Because I've already transferred the rights. I have no right to send it free of cost. Because the journals charge, for example, my paper, which I wrote with my first PhD student in 2003, has undergone more than 25,000 downloads. And for each download, the Emerald has charged 29 pounds. So how much money Emerald made from my paper? And how much money I got at this zero? Because I transferred the rights. Right? Even yesterday also I saw the citations, I was so thrilled. Right? Even after 2019, 16 years after publication, it is still on the upward trend. I felt so happy. But happy only for a minute because I didn't get any paisa. They got all the money. 29, even again I saw. For downloads, 29 pounds. Emerald has put. Even I cannot access my own paper unless I pay 29 pounds. Right? So there is advantage, right? So for some of the papers have made huge money. Similarly, I don't know how many of you remember our former RBI governor, right? He is a finance professor in Chicago School of Business, right? Have you heard of him? Rajan, right? So he published a paper in Journal of Finance long back. It is considered as a seminal paper. Anybody who does finance research, they select this paper. That is how much of money the journal has made. So if we can reach such status, what is so you will be a celebrity writer like that, right? Although unfortunately we may not get much money out of it, right? Access model, but you get invitations, right? You will be in panels. So many things will happen. Indexing, yes, I already said. So these are the important things you can take a look. Journal suggestion tools are available with all the top publishing agencies, right? Elsewhere, Springer, Wiley, Taylor, Francis, and this one is, I think, from China, Advanced Journal. There is some confusion about it, but I have included it because many people have recommended. I went through all of them, okay, just to understand how they give. Now, very simple. All that you have to do is, you have to mention, you have to paste the abstract. Okay, there will be a text box available. Just paste the abstract and leave it. So it will spend some time and it will tell you your article can go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Give the journals. Not only that, they will also give it in the descending order of suitability. So your article is highly suitable for this, slightly for this, slightly for this, slightly for this. So in that way, you can understand how good is the fit of your paper with respect to the journal. Right? Please go through this. You will really love them. Right? It was a wonderful experience. If you don't have any abstract, you take some abstract and dump it. Just see it at least. Okay. Or you just write some story. There was a king named something and all blah 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 blah. And you just see what happens. What is there after all, right? No explosion will happen in computer, right? So always don't hesitate to make experiments. Always do that. In fact, I do it for fun also sometimes, just to see what the software is doing. Right? So enjoy yourself. Yeah, this is just the website. So that's what I said. You have to enter your abstract here. So it will say match my abstract, search by keywords, aim, scope, journal data. You see this? It's a very beautiful software. It checks everything. Right? For example, the title. Now, sometimes many people play a game. They deliberately arrange the title in such a way that the content is almost reflected in the title. That's what they say, though it is not quite often. Right? The idea is to, because what is the first thing that anybody would look at when they see the paper? Title only. Isn't it? Nobody will see the references. Nobody will see the methodology. First they look at the title. So many people advise to prepare a catchy title. How do you prepare a catchy title? Go for ChatGPT, that's all. You ask it. See, here is my abstract. Hey, come on, give me a catchy, flashy, fantastic title, and it will give. Use it. Right? But so you can try all these things. You will enjoy, definitely you will enjoy. Right? I have done so many times. Right? Almost every day I keep doing all these things just to see what happens, how it reads, so on and so forth. Okay. So by the title also try. But as I said, title and content quite often may not be aligned with each other. And if the editor finds it out, paper is rejected. And another thing is authors. See, many times, sometimes we also want to know what these authors have written already, etc. Now, what do you think will be the number of authors for any paper? In general? 2. If you are a PhD student, yes, it is obvious, right? Your guide name has to appear, right? And if you are a lecturer, yes, HOD's name has to appear, so it will be 3. So if you are simply, so depending upon where you stand, sometimes all the above people you have to put. It's a mandate, right? So in some of the organizations, it's a compulsory rule. Your next supervisor, his next supervisor, this up to director. So you start with 1 author and finally it becomes 15 authors. Right? 14 authors dummy and only 1 fellow active. You know the rules. And you can't question. Because you have to survive in the organization, isn't it? But I have gone through some embarrassing this one. I wrote one paper with my student. He was working in an organization. And I forgot almost. And after 1 year I met him somewhere and I asked him, what happened? Sir, it was published. Where? Oh, really? Okay. Can you send the paper? He was sent it. If you had already published, let us take the joy of reading it. He was not very sure. He sent it, at least let me see. Then finally, reluctantly, he sent it. My name was not at all there. I wonder, who is that? Then immediately, luckily I had his number. I called him and said, hey, come on, sir, what happened, sir? Your name was removed, sir. Correct, I contributed. I say, sir, agreed, but your name was removed. Why? I don't know, sir. Who removed it? I don't know, sir. How it was removed? I don't know, sir. You went on telling, I don't know, I don't know. Then finally, I get, okay, I don't know anything, and I close. Right? So then I realized these are all this. Nowadays it has reached horrible. If somebody said 2 or 3. But I did research on this. How many authors can be there? Can you believe my research found out one interesting thing? 100 plus authors. You may say, there's a 3 pages, only authors' names and affiliations. First 3 pages. Naturally. Right? I was surprised. I wrote a letter to Emerald. How is this? Because Emerald itself says the number of authors should be limited to 5 something. But they have a paper with 13 authors, 18 authors. I collected all the data. I told, what is it? They said, no, it is something, blah, blah, blah. So there is no hard and fast rule at all. But imagine for a while, 5,000 words approximately, 13 authors. That means each author has written approximately about 400 words. Isn't it? So is it possible? Can 13 authors straightforward, this one common pen and write like this, everybody holding hand? Impossible. Joker. Isn't it? So then why journals are encouraging? I don't know. Yeah, this is the beautiful part I wanted to tell you, right? So this is from another tool known as Jane. So you can see this, right? Confidence, Journal of Environmental Management, right? Included. Then all those journals they are written and they are shown, right? Select all, descent all, export citations, all the detail you can get. So you can try this. You can yourself check the suitability of the paper, and you can also observe which journals will give a higher priority for your article and which journals do not. Of course, it doesn't mean that you should not consider those at the bottom. You can still consider. Okay. Although we may have some questions about the. So these are the website. You can just take a look at it. Okay. So this is Sage Publishing. Please take. Sorry, I'm taking a little time here. This is a video available in Sage, right? So they have developed a video where they show all these. I think audio is not coming, right? So preparing for survey peer review. They have mentioned everything in your paper. Right? So please take a look at it. There are many such videos available. Right? You can just see and you can enjoy them. Right? They will explain everything and all. You come to know how you can do that and all that. In fact, Sage is a very highly respected. This one. I also have some connections with them. In fact, I wrote some case studies with them. So they give all the details. Right? So please, there are about 2 or 3 minutes videos only. You can definitely have, yeah. So they explain everything, open access and verification journal, right? When this should be done, when that should be done. All the points are illustrated in the video. Okay. So please go through them before you submit and then enjoy the.
Publish your paper in a subscription journal, and your paper will be available to read by anyone who is a subscriber or can read it via their institutional library. Alternatively, you can choose to publish open access in a subscription journal. At Sage, this is called Sage Choice. This offers authors the option to make their articles freely available upon publication in most subscription-based Sage journals. The benefit of Sage Choice is that you can comply with funding body requirements while still publishing the article in the subscription journal of your choice. You know your research paper inside and out. You've consulted with your colleagues in your field. Now, ask yourself, does it fit within the aims and scope of a certain journal? Does your article reference publications that might be a good fit for your research? What type of paper are you submitting? And does the journal of your choice accept that type? What do the journal's key metrics tell you? Would this journal have an impact on your research? Now that you've selected a journal, it's time to move on to the submission process. Join us in the next video to continue your journey.
Yeah, so towards the end, I just want to use a few points here. Point to the paper, always look at the journal, observe their scope, editorial, everything. Change some words here and there, make it more aligned. Then align with the editorial policy. Right? See, nowadays, yeah, one more thing I forgot. If your journal, if your article has certain experiments with respect to people, animals, anything, you have to declare that. Okay, now it's mandatory. Okay, because certain implications are there. So journals insist on that. If you have used somebody, right? because there are so many horrible things happening in the name of research. I don't want to get into all the details, right? So journalists are also very particular because they don't want to be sued for millions of dollars for all these encouragements, right? Because there are certain cruel experiments involved in some cases. So we need to be careful. Demonstrates applications, illustrates significance, suggests use of the scope. Then this I skip. Yeah, so this is another this one. If you are looking for quick publication, of course, one is you pay the money and get it. Sometimes you get the acceptance in 24 hours, printing in 48 hours, and delivery in 72 hours. So you can go for such things also if you are very particular because you are heading for an interview and suddenly somebody asks, where is your paper? So you have no other work but to do that, right? Fine, but that is not a good system or good practice. So target Q3 and Q4 to start with, look at open access if it is possible, then search specialized journals, then use journal finder tools I have already shown. Check submission to publication time. There are notorious journals taking 2 years. Okay, please be very careful. And not only that, after waiting for 2 years, the letter says your research is outdated. Okay, so be ready for all those hardware situations, right? So these are common, right? You will understand all these things one by one. Yeah, this is the one, of course, I think I'm running short of time. This I have done with an Excel sheet. This is my work. What I have done is I have taken certain criteria like scope, fit, impact factor, review speed, indexing, open access. So I give weights. This is again my model. You can change the weights according to your convenience. You can change the impact factor weight from 20 to 30 if you are very particular. Then your friends, your research guide or somebody experienced author, they can take 3 or 4 journals consideration and they can give the rating. I give 4 here out of 5, 1 to 5 Likert scale. They can use that. Then you take the weighted score and consider which one you have to use. That's all. Okay. So here we are very close. 3.95 is the journal B, so you can choose journal B. So this I have developed an Excel model. If you are interested, I'll later send it to you. Right? Shortage of time, I'm not able to demonstrate this. I have Excel sheets for this. So you can do this, and you can even include so many other factors. Right? Even 15 factors I have included. So these are all purely to understand the complexities in publishing. Okay. So this I skipped a few points here. Yeah, so these are certain other points. Prepare the paper for wider acceptance. Check your language. Make sure you use the style of the target journal. For example, should I use first person or third person? Even that matters. Passive language and active language, that matters, right? So many subtle issues are there. You need to be extremely careful about it. Yeah, so this is for experienced authors, one column I have created. For budding authors, I have created another. Right? If you are an experienced author, you can go for less. Right? Strategic journal mapping, quantitative decision model, which is very much liked by many journals, right? Because now sophisticated statistical tools are available, so you can definitely do that. Then data-driven decisions. I am very much for it, right? I always love that. I always go for Excel modeling. It's my favorite. So data-driven decisions are always very good. You can use simulation and check your model thoroughly, and you can do that. Then for the budding authors, yes, start with that one. Then use journalization tools, tired submission plan, follow journal stage guide, all those things. Okay, so this is a very helpful. Then you can start with budding author and you can go to experienced author by these steps. Okay, scope fit, journals and tired plus data-driven strategy and all. Yeah, this is another point. Please don't forget tweaking the paper. Right, use keywords from journal scope. So when you use the keywords, right, keywords are also very carefully selected because all the databases will categorize your paper based on the keywords. So how you choose the keywords, you have to be very careful, right? So there are certain points you need to follow. Then abstract, introduction, discussion, references, all those things very carefully you do that, right? So I would say journal selection is both strategic and adaptive, right? Journalist of at least 3 journals. Whenever you write a paper, keep a journal rejection log. Sometimes it happens. Consider cascade journal, consider alternative journals, adjust manuscript scope, maintain a tired list, primary, secondary, tertiary. Okay. So these things are all based on my own study and research work, right? After doing so much of this one, I have come at certain points and all. These are the final words. Do not expect acceptance in the first instant. Be ready, right? Always be ready for negative things. Don't take it too personal or be heartbroken. This can happen to anybody. Do not take submissions on the same. This is another mistake. In fact, one of my colleagues always does this. Simultaneously submitting for 3 let me see what happened. But please don't do that. It is actually unethical. And if by chance the editors come to know that, they simply reject it. Okay. Do not send frequent emails, please. It won't happen. Do not withdraw the submission. Another important thing. Many people withdraw when it is still under submission, the review stage. Please don't do it. Do not plead or beg. Of course, it won't happen. But even to send 100 mails saying that it won't work. So with this, let me come to the end of my presentation. Right. I hope I have given some tips and all. So let me thank you for your patience. Okay. Thank you. So if you have any specific questions, you can just let me know. Anyway, we have some time constraint. So.
Thank you, sir. I would like to express our sincere gratitude to our resource person, Professor Jagdish, for his insightful session on mapping the research landscape and selecting the right journal. Your valuable guidance has truly helped us understand the research direction and the importance of choosing the right publication platform. Thank you, sir, for such an enlightening session. As a token of our appreciation and gratitude, we request you to kindly accept this memento. I request Deepa Ma'am, IQAC Co-Coordinator, to kindly present the memento to our resource person. Thank you, sir. Dear participants, the feedback QR code has been shared in the WhatsApp group and is also displayed on the screen. Kindly provide your valuable feedback. We will now break for lunch. Lunch is arranged at indoor stadium. Kindly have your lunch and reassemble at the venue by sharp 1:30 to continue the session. Dear participants, those who have not signed the receipts, please do sign the receipts.
It's a passive